Okay, it's 1 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name's Scott Summers. I'm General Counsel here at the department, and I was appointed to conduct rule revision hearings this afternoon. The subject of the first one are revisions proposed to Title 92 Nebraska Administrative Code Chapter 20, otherwise known as Department of Education Rule 20, titled Regulations for Approval of Teacher Education Programs. Today's date is Wednesday, May 29th, and it is 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we are located in the State Boardroom of the Department of Education, 301 Centennial Mall South in the State Office Building. The legal notice of this afternoon's hearings were published in the Omaha World Herald on April 26, 2019. We're going to have two hearings, the first of which will be the proposed revisions to Rule 20, as I said, and then we'll stop that and we'll begin the second half with the proposed revisions to Title 92 Nebraska Administrative Code Chapter 23, entitled Regulations for Basic Skills Competency Testing of Teachers. The guidelines I'm about to read apply to both. We'll just stop and start them as we go. And the legal notice for Rule 23 was published on the date and in the paper I just read too. First, some guidelines that apply to both rules, both hearings this morning. First, as to each rule, one at a time, we'll do 20 and then 23. Nebraska Department of Education staff member Brad Dirksen, to my left, will describe and explain the proposed revisions to each rule. And this will be followed by testimony from interested persons. Each person presenting testimony is requested to, 1, state a concise suggestion or recommendation of what action you would like the State Board of Education to take concerning the proposed revisions. 2, state the rationale or reason for your recommendation. 3, you may reinforce, but please refrain from repeating previous testimony. 4, each person testifying is limited to 5 minutes. Unless additional time is absolutely needed, it can be granted. At the conclusion of all testimony from interested persons, Mr. Dirksen will have the opportunity to respond to the testimony presented, and that will conclude the testimony. If anyone is testifying today and you wish to pose a question that you want answered as opposed to some rhetorical or philosophical nature type question, try to make that clear, because under the Administrative Procedures Act, the department is supposed to try and answer questions as a result of the rule hearing, so we need to understand what's a question versus a rhetorical question. The testimony presented will be recorded, and an audio recording will be made available to the State Board of Education and the public via YouTube at the time the State Board considers the adoption of the rule, which is scheduled, if all things go as planned, for this next week's State Board meeting, June 7th. Any written testimony that has been brought today by anyone needs to be submitted to myself or Brenda at the close of the hearing in order to be made a part of the record, or by 5 p.m. at the absolute latest if it's somehow not physically with you. With that, we will go ahead and get started, and I will ask Mr. Dirksen to describe and explain the proposed revisions to, first of all, Rule 20, Approval of Teacher Education Programs. Oh, and I should say, if you are testifying, we'll remind you this when you come up. There's a sign-in sheet here that just asks for name and spelling and that, so we don't mess it up. I will be doing a written hearing summary for the board, and I don't want to butcher your name.
Rule 20. Hi, my name is Brad Dirksen. I'm the administrator of the Office of Accountability, Accreditation, and Program Approval at the Nebraska Department of Education. The following is a short synopsis of the revisions to Title 92, Nebraska Administrative Code, Chapter 20, Regulations for the Approval of Teacher Education Programs. Section 001.03, Related Regulations, has been revised to include guidance. The term guidance specifically names the technical assistance document for dyslexia, describes the guidance document, and informs where the document can be found. The term shall was replaced with will and must throughout the document, and the proposed hearing draft will be reviewed to potentially replace shall and must with will as appropriate. Section 04.03A1 and 04.03A2 was revised to clarify the requirements regarding the number of faculty for undergraduate and graduate programs. Additional misdemeanors were added to the convictions list in section 004.06D. Section 004.06F was eliminated, which required a candidate for admission to a teacher education program to demonstrate basic skills competency as specified in Title 92, Nebraska Administrative Code, Chapter 23, Regulations for Basic Skills Competency Attesting of Teachers and Administrators. Section 005.02H, Instructional Strategies, was expanded to include instruction in dyslexia. Clarification was added to 005.03B regarding speech language pathology and school pathologist or school psychologist preparation programs. To inform the department while drafting the revision to Title 92 Nebraska Administrative Code Chapter 20, Regulations for the Approval of Teacher Education Programs, stakeholders were engaged and input was gathered from the Nebraska Council on Teacher Education, representatives of teacher preparation institutions, school and district administrators, and educational professional organizations, including the Nebraska Council of School Administrators, the Nebraska State Education Association, and the Nebraska Association of Colleges of Teacher Education. The decision to eliminate basic skill competency as a program admission requirement was included in the proposed hearing draft in efforts to provide educational equity of opportunities to teacher education program candidates. Eliminating basic skills as a mandatory competency for admission into teacher education programs reduces the barriers while maintaining the requirements for certification. This allows students and teacher education programs extra time to remediate student basic skills while at the same time maintaining high quality requirements for teacher certification, because basic skills competency remains a requirement for certification as outlined in Title 92 Nebraska Administrative Code Chapter 23 Regulations for the basic skills competency testing of teachers and administrators. Additionally, the requirements in Title 92 Nebraska Administrative Code Chapter 20 Regulations for the Approval of Teacher Education Programs are minimum standards in a teacher education program can determine any minimum criteria above and beyond the minimum standards. Thank you.
Thank you. And Brad, we can make your testimony, which you read from, part of the record of the hearing
Yes.
as your testimony, okay? We will do so. Okay, at this time, if there are any interested persons that wish to verbally testify, although we have a small audience, please come forward and fill out the sign-in sheet there and tell us your name and then begin.
Well, I'm Jenny Jansky from UNK. Ready? Well, good afternoon. Again, my name is Jenny Jansky, and I'm the Certification Officer at the University of Nebraska at Kearney. I'm here today on behalf of UNK to show support for the proposed changes to Rule 23, the basic skills requirement for teacher education. We're all aware of the nation's teacher shortage, and Nebraska schools are beginning to experience difficulties.
Are you testifying to 23 or
23.
Okay, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's 20, yeah, that's fine.
Should I remain here?
I think so. Does anyone wish to testify as to Rule 20?
I'm sorry, I thought you were doing them together.
That's fine. Now we kind of bifurcated it. Okay. Well, given that I apparently no testimony concerning Rule 20, so at this time we will close Rule 20 and move on to Rule 20, proposed revisions to Rule 23. And I guess before you begin to testify, I would ask Brad to do the same in regard to Rule 23. But you can however you want. That mic's live too, isn't it? Yeah, there's no need for you to sit there. You can sit wherever.
Great. Hi, my name is Brad Dirksen. I'm the Administrator of the Office of Accountability, Accreditation, and Program Approval at the Nebraska Department of Education. The following is a short synopsis of the revisions to Title 92, Nebraska Administrative Code, Chapter 23, Regulations for the Basic Skills Competency Testing of Teachers and Administrators. Basic Skills Competency Examination entrance requirements for the Nebraska Standard Institutions of Higher Education were eliminated. However, Section 01.03, institutional responsibility of standard institutions of higher education to annually notify applicants of the basic skills competency examination remain, as related to certification. The term shall was replaced with will and must throughout the document, and proposed hearing draft will be reviewed to potentially replace shall and must with will as appropriate. The American College Test, or ACT, was added to the definition section in 02.01 and operationalized with passing scores in section 03.04. The use of a composite score of 486 on core skills test in section 03.02D was revised to include individual score minimums in line with one standard error of measurement from the required score in section 0302A through C. The use of a combination of tests was added in section 03.05 to allow applicants to meet the basic skills competency requirements by using a combination of tests outlined in sections 0302 through 03.04. To inform the department while drafting the revisions to Title 92 Nebraska Administrative Code, Chapter 23, Regulations for the Basic Skills Competency Testing of Teachers and Administrators, stakeholders were engaged and input was gathered from the Nebraska Council on Teacher Education, representatives of teacher preparation institutions, school and district administrators, and educational professional organizations, including the Nebraska Council of School Administrators, the Nebraska State Education Association, and the Nebraska Association of Colleges of Teacher Education. The decision to eliminate the basic skills competency as an entrance requirement to teacher education programs was included in the proposed hearing draft in efforts to provide educational equity of opportunities to teacher education program candidates. Eliminating basic skills as a mandatory competency for admission into teacher education program reduces barriers. This allows students in teacher education programs extra time to remediate students' basic skills while at the same time maintaining high quality requirements for teacher certification, because this basic skills competency remains a requirement for certification as outlined in Title 92 Nebraska Administrative Code, Chapter 23, Regulations for the Basic Skills Competency Testing of Teachers and Administrators. The rationale for the revisions to the testing is rooted in educational equity for students who are pursuing teacher certification, while at the same time maintaining high standards for certification. By allowing an additional testing method option, modifying the composite score option, and allowing the use of a combination of tests, teacher certification applicants are allowed to meet basic skills through multiple testing measures, which reduces the chance for testing bias. Additionally, the changes provided a no-cost option to the students in Nebraska districts by incorporating the American College Test, otherwise known as ACT, taken at no charge by high school juniors in Nebraska. The ACT scores are set at a rigorous level. According to an ACT profile report that included the graduating class of 2018 public high school students in Nebraska, less than the top third met the new proposed testing levels. The intent of additional testing measures is in no way lowering the bar for our future educators. Thank you.
Brad, I had a couple things. First of all, I think ironically, since you just talked about dyslexia, I think you said something about a minimum score, the use of a composite score, minimum composite score of 486, but your written testimony says 468. Is it 468?
468.
Okay, if I heard correctly.
Yes, correct.
And then also, I believe you were going to address what we like to call Scrivener's error in Rule 23, Section 0302D, at least as it was printed in the hearing draft, if you want to address that.
Yeah, the score in that section was 2 points below what the error should have been, or the error with the score was 2 points, should have been 2 points higher in that section.
So it said 156, but it will be
158.
offered to the board as 158.
That is correct.
Okay. I don't think I have anything else. Now you can pick up where you left off.
Would you rather I start over? for the record?
Sure, I suppose, just because I probably already forgot what you said before.
Okay. Well, it was just introduction. So,
Yeah.
my name is Jenny Jansky, and I am here, and I'm the certification officer at the University of Nebraska at Kearney. I'm here today on behalf of UNK to show support for the proposed changes to Rule 23, the basic skills requirement for teacher certification. We're all aware of the nation's teacher shortage, and Nebraska schools are beginning to experience difficulties in filling positions with qualified teachers. According to the February 2019 Nebraska Department of Education Teacher Vacancy Survey Report, over 300 positions were either left unfilled or were filled by someone other than a fully qualified teacher. Without lowering the standards for Nebraska teachers, the proposed changes to Rule 23 will allow more students to enter the field of education through university or college teacher preparation programs. At UNK, and undoubtedly at other Nebraska institutions, we see students succeed in math and language arts courses but struggle with the Praxis Core standardized test. Even though these students have clearly demonstrated through coursework that they have the math and language arts skills needed to teach, they struggle with one standardized test, the Praxis Core, and they're forced to leave the field of education. At UNK alone, since the Praxis Core was adopted in 2014, over 250 students have not passed all 3 sections of the Praxis Core. By broadening the composite score requirement and accepting ACT scores, more of these students will qualify for teacher certification, directly and immediately impacting the number of future teachers in the pipeline. Furthermore, it should be said that we have not seen a correlation between the Praxis Core scores and effective teachers. Therefore, we are prohibiting students from entering the field without really knowing if this is an appropriate measure of teacher effectiveness. In addition to having more teacher candidates in the pipeline, we would expect more diverse teachers to enter the Nebraska workforce. According to a 2017 ETS pass rate report, 26% of the UNK students that failed to pass all 3 sections of the Praxis Core identify their race as something other than white. While at UNK, our diverse education student population runs typically around 13%. By allowing for multiple measures, the ACT and Praxis Core, along with the revised composite score requirements, we expect more diverse students to meet the basic skills requirement and enter the educator pipeline. It's important to remember that teacher candidates in Nebraska are in the field for a minimum of 100 hours before they student teach. They must be approved by faculty, classroom teachers, and university supervisors before finishing their programs. It's this real-life experience in the classroom, along with their content knowledge gained from a baccalaureate degree, that makes them successful. Thank you for considering the proposed changes.
Thank you. Is there any further testimony about proposed revisions to Rule 23, Basic Skills Competency Testing? We can go back if there's anything on Rule 20 that anyone, 20 has been passed, but I'd be willing, if ma'am, I know you walked in late, anything on Rule 20?
Sorry, I was late.
No, that's fine. But you don't care to testify on Rule 20? Okay. Okay. Thank you. With that, script here. That will take care of testimony, both on Rules 20 and 23 revisions for this afternoon. We will be preparing a written summary of today's testimony. What's that? Yeah, okay, yeah. 2 separate documents, both summarizing the testimony, and we have received 2 advanced submissions of written testimony, which will be made part of the record of the hearing because they were submitted in time. One from Sarah Skreda, Certification Officer, College of Education Human Science from the University of Nebraska, dated May 23rd, and an email from just yesterday from Mr. Bruce Chesterman, 32 years in the teaching profession, generally supporting proposed revisions to Rule 23, and the testimony from the Dr. Skreda at UNL was concerning Rule 20 and 23. Anything further, Brad? Okay, with that, thanks for turning out this afternoon. We'll close the hearing. The board will consider it in a week and a half. Thank you.